on day 163, March 17th, on a Sunday night, we got that dreaded knock at the door, where we were told that he unfortunately had been, based on all types of new evidence, they'd seen that he had been killed on October 7th, and his body is held in Gaza. Even though we don't have his body yet, we decided to go ahead and do a military funeral as per the suggestion of the army, because we did have blood from the tank and we had quite a significant amount of blood on his uniform. And as is Jewish law, you bury what you have. We're the only grave since October 7th of the many hundreds of graves where there is a grave but no body in it.
In commemoration of the 7th of October, today I have the honor and pleasure of talking to Rabbi Doron Perez, the Executive Chairman of the World Mizrahi Movement and proud father of Daniel Perez, who fell on 7th of October and whose body is still being held by Hamas in Gaza. Rabbi Perez is well known and loved by the Australian Jewish community, and I am thrilled that he has made time to speak to the Australian Jewish News. So welcome, Rabbi Perez, to Conversations That Count. Thank you so much for talking to the Australian Jewish News today, Rabbi. On the 7th of October, your life changed forever. You had two sons fighting in combat, and one of your sons, Daniel, was murdered and taken hostage on the 7th of October, while your second son was injured. Can you just start by telling us what happened to Daniel?
Yeah, so it's nice to be with you, Anna, and the Australian Jewish News, and thank you for the opportunity of sharing some insights and perspectives. Yeah, unfortunately, as you know, the Jewish world and our personal world changed irrevocably on Simchat Torah, the 7th of October, 2 years ago. We all know what happened on that day to over 1,250 people. We all know how horrific and barbaric, both in terms of quantity and quality, in terms of the type of barbaric murders and torture there was unparalleled, both in magnitude and in how it happened since the Shoah, as we know. Our family was affected in two ways. One very thankfully, miraculously, and the other one tragically. We're very lucky that our older son, Jonathan, was also an officer in the army, like his younger brother, Daniel. He fought in a whole number of places in the Gaza envelope. He was then a company commander in the paratroopers. And after many different gun battles, he ended up being shot in the thigh. And by the grace of God, was only moderately wounded and thankfully saved, made it to Soroka Hospital, and he survived, got married 10 days later. That's a whole story as well. Unfortunately, at his wedding on the 17th of October, his younger brother Daniel was then missing. Our son Daniel, on the day, was a tank commander, an officer in the 7th Armored Corps Chativa Sheva, based on Nachal Oz base. And we know from video footage that at 6:45 from the black box of the tank, that they got into the tank at 6:45. They fought heroically, him and his crew, for 2 hours and 16 minutes from 6:45 until 9:01, where unfortunately after the initial 2-hour very heroic battle against the first wave of Nukhba terrorists from their tank position outside Kibbutz Nachal Oz and Nachal Oz base, and then having fought within the base, they returned to their position outside the base, between the base, the kibbutz, and the border. And being the last line of defense, they saw a second wave of terrorists coming in at about 10 to 9. And this was the critical one. They saw about 50 to 60 Nukhba terrorists of the second wave on motorbikes and RPG missile launchers. And they felt they had no choice but to try and block them off and engage them. So they went straight at them. Managed to neutralize and kill many of them, saving many lives in the process. But unfortunately, during the course of the battle, they were shot from almost point blank range, it seems, by an RPG missile. And 3 out of the 4 were killed. Our son Daniel, Itai Chen, and Tomer Leibowitz. And one, Matan Angrest, was taken alive. Now, for the first 163 days, we hoped and prayed that Daniel was alive. All we heard was in the first week that eventually the army told us that 3 have been taken captive, Matan, Itai, and Daniel. And for 163 days, we hoped and prayed he was alive. We had heard that he'd been injured based on blood found on his uniform. They found uniform on October 8th with blood on it. It took them about 5 weeks to do DNA testing, and they came to tell us that the blood on the uniform, as well as in and around the tank, is Daniel's blood. So we knew that he had been injured. And that, of course, was a very, very difficult piece of information. And on day 163, March 17th, on a Sunday night, we got that dreaded knock at the door, where we were told that he unfortunately had been, based on all types of new evidence, they'd seen that he had been killed on October 7th, and his body is held in Gaza. Even though we don't have his body yet, we decided to go ahead and do a military funeral as per the suggestion of the army, because we did have blood from the tank, and we had quite a significant amount of blood on his uniform. And as is Jewish law, you bury what you have. So we are actually the only grave on Israel's national military ceremony, Mount Herzl in Jerusalem. We're the only grave since October 7th of the many hundreds of graves where there is a grave but no body in it. We feel, in inverted commas, lucky that we have a grave. There are a lot of people, of the 28, the 48 hostages still held in Gaza as of this recording. 28 of them are deceased, and majority of them don't have a grave because their bodies are held in Gaza, and the families don't have anything. So I feel, in inverted commas, lucky that at least we have a grave. It gives us, it's painful, but it gives us some comfort to be able to go to the grave and mourn at his and connect with him there, although his body is still held in Gaza. So that has been our lot since October 7th.
And can you tell me a little bit about your other son, Jonathan, who bravely fought on that terrible day and thankfully survived?
Yeah, so Jonathan's our older son. He was engaged then to Galia. She is from Kibbutz Saad, a kibbutz not far, in fact, from Nachal Oz. It's a kilometer or so from Nachal Oz. It's a religious kibbutz. She's from there. And on the Simchat Torah, on the 7th of October, they were at our home. He left the home at around 8 o'clock in the morning when he understood that there was a hostage situation in Sderot and things were going on. He didn't quite know what was going on, but he left our home with whatever weapons he could have. He had some weapons on him, and he fought in Sderot and all the way towards Kfar Aza, Nachal Oz. As fate would have it, him and his group of paratrooper officers were sent to Nachal Oz base, where his brother, unbeknown to him, had already been taken captive and killed. He didn't go there because of his brother. Went there because the army sent him there. And they went in at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they had the great merit of saving 22 soldiers, 20 female and 2 male soldiers. 7 who had escaped from the burning operation room, where they were actually in telephonic contact with them, managed to get them out. Another 15 girls, which were female soldiers, which were also miraculously unharmed in a room that was locked. It's a whole story how that happened. Managed to get them out. And during the course of some gun battles with terrorists, they were ambushed in the base, and him and 2 other officers were shot, him in the thigh, one in the back and one in the stomach. Thankfully, they're all okay. We had to make the really tough decision of, do we go ahead with the wedding knowing that Daniel was missing? We decided to go ahead with it. To do a small wedding, we cancelled the wedding hall in Ashkelon area. We did a small wedding in our hometown of Yad Binyamin. As difficult as it was still very, 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 joyous. We try to focus for those 5 hours on Jonathan. Of course, we couldn't not think of Daniel, and it was very, very painful. But we did manage, despite the pain, we managed to cry and mourn, but rejoice and be in the moment. It was very poignant and painful, but very beautiful. And thankfully, Jonathan, they live actually in Kibbutz Saad because Jonathan's still in the army and his wife is close to her parents and they live there. 1 year and 2 days after we got up from the shiva, they were blessed with a baby boy, a first child, a first grandchild, and a first great grandchild on our side of the family. And he was named, soon after, as almost a year to the day, he was named Ori Daniel after Daniel. My son Jonathan beautifully said at the bris, at the Brit Milah, he said that the name Ori is Malat, based on Psalm 27, where we say in the month of Elul and through Simchat Torah, we say Le David Hashem Ori, God is Malat and salvation. Ori Daniel, Daniel after his brother, the uncle of the child. And he said a beautiful thing, Jonathan. He said, Ori is Ori and Daniel is Daniel, meaning Ori is not his, Daniel is his uncle, and Ori is a separate person. And he hopes and prays that he will not grow up in the shadow of his heroic uncle, but in his light. And I think he said that beautifully. And thank God, Ori is almost 6 months old, and we are overjoyed.
I got quite emotional hearing about your your grandchild. Excuse me for a moment.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
It's
Thank
quite
you.
extraordinary to hear of your of the juxtaposition between life and death. How do you live with hope and despair, life and death, optimism, pessimism? How do you combine all of these complex emotions that you've had to process?
I think for me, what I've learned is that certain things are difficult to explain, but they just are. I don't know how to explain to you until I've experienced it, that it's possible to feel on a daily basis such raw pain and emptiness, but such joy and happiness, such a joie de vivre and a love of life, and at times such a deep pain. And I don't know, if somebody would have told me 2 years ago this, I would have thought that they are living in another planet. I don't know how to explain it to you, Anna, but I can tell you that there almost isn't a day in my life that I don't feel enormous pain, but enormous pride, enormous pain, but enormous privilege, both suffering at times and simcha. I often can't believe this has happened to us. Like every year, I'm hoping to wake up from this. I just can't believe it, I just can't believe it. But at the same time, with the pain of the loss, there's just so much meaning, blessing, that our son Jonathan was saved. So many incredible things have come out of this as well. None of them on any level make up the loss of Daniel. And given the decision a million times over, we would roll the clock back. But we are not, unfortunately, given those variables to decide on. And I have seen that, and I'm not saying this for everyone. I can only talk on behalf of my own experience. I can say everyone in our family experiences, and I think everyone has been through loss experiences it the way they experience it. I can just say for me, from that first week, especially from the wedding, for me, the biggest, still today, I think the biggest insight that I've got from this painful experience is that it is possible to mourn and worry about your son. We were not mourning for Daniel under the chuppah because we were hoping and praying that he was alive, but we were smitten with angst and worry and concern, knowing that he was a hostage in all likelihood. But I saw that it was possible to hold that, acknowledge it, cry about it under the chuppah, so to speak. When I say, I've learned an amazing expression. When we say get on with it, it's not get on with it. It's get on with it, meaning bring it with you. It's not get on with it. I don't think you ever get over something like this, and I don't think you're supposed to get over it. But you can get on with it. But get on with it doesn't mean dismissively get on with it. It means get on with it, bring it with you, acknowledge it, feel it, cry for it, and then just, it's now part of our life. It's just part of our life, you know? And that means every other day and every other moment, there's just this, there's the pain. I can't but walk past his room and feel pain. I can't walk into his room without feeling pain. But that's part of our life. It's part of our life. What I'm going to ignore it. Now, I don't go out of my way to feel the pain. I think everybody has to handle things in the way that is best for them. For some people, they need to feel the connection and they want to see, and for others, they don't. For some people, they need to go on a regular basis into the room to feel a certain presence, and others don't. And there's no right or wrong. But I've learned that you have to be able to do what's good and healthy for you. I do feel for me, I have, for whatever reason, been able to carry the pain of the loss and at the same time to feel such even joy at the fact that Jonathan was saved, that we have a grandson, that in some ways I feel lucky. I want to say it in the following way. This is all my own way of processing it. It's my own way of processing it, you know? So much of life depends how you choose to think about things and process things. And I thought to myself the following thought: if I can accept, that for whatever reason it was decreed on Rosh Hashanah 2 years ago that this would be Daniel's last. You see, Rosh Hashanah was the last time that I davened, that I had both of my sons with me. They're both in the army. They both been Yad Binyamin. They both davened next to me on Rosh Hashanah. Now, I want to say, if I can accept, as hard as it is, that for whatever reason, as we say in the Natan Tokef, you know, who will live and who will not, that if for whatever reason, unfortunately, that our son, Jonathan, would be survive, and unfortunately, our son, thankfully, Jonathan will survive, and Daniel, unfortunately, would be decreed not. If I can accept that, I feel that if I'm able to accept that, I feel so much blessing within the curse. Why? Because we now know that Daniel didn't suffer for 1 second. He was killed on October 7th. He was never in their hands alive. He did not suffer. He is not suffering, and he will not suffer. Yes, we've suffered. We suffered 163 days. We suffered the loss of a son. His body's still in Gaza. We've suffered a lot, but he didn't suffer. Number one. Number two, how many people die with so much suffering, with so little meaning? People are killed arbitrarily. People die of sicknesses. People die in accidents, you know, and people have to work so hard to see any meaning in it. You know, I don't know, thank God, and I hope I'll never know what it's like to lose a son in different circumstances. But I know that in this circumstance, as painful as loss is, and there's no way to mediate that. But I can't begin to imagine what it's like to lose a child after suffering, or so to speak, arbitrarily, and where you've got to look and try and see what the meaning is. Daniel died on the most important day in the Jewish people's life in our generation, in a terrible surprise attack where he was able to save tens, if not hundreds of people, where he was able to fight for 2 hours and 16 minutes, where he chose, with his freedom of choice, to leave his tank position to be where he needed to be. And he wouldn't have had it any other way. And it's just so meaningful. And as it doesn't bring our child back, and it doesn't dampen the pain, but I believe it could be so much worse. And this is how I'm choosing to see it, because basically the only choice I've got here is how I choose to try and process this. And unfortunately in life, as says Viktor Frankl, maybe the only ultimate choice we have, the only ultimate choice is how to choose to respond to what happens to us. We don't choose to be born. We don't choose to which parents to be born to. We don't choose in what generation to be born. We don't choose in what race and religion and family and gender, all of these things. Yeah, some of these we try to change, but not all of them we can change. We don't choose our nature or our nurture. And we don't choose so many circumstances that come our way. But no one can ever take away our decision of how to respond, to think, and to react to what happens to us. Arguably, That's the only free choice that we have, that no one can take away from us.
Mm.
And one has to dig deep. One has to dig deep. And I don't know how to explain it to you, Anna. I don't know how to explain it to you, but I do feel through the experiences that have happened to me, and again, a lot of people have got a lot worse than me, I feel that somehow it's able to carry the loss and the pain along with the privilege and the gratitude. I don't know how it works,
Not
but the
it.
human heart clearly has a capacity which defies logic.
Can I just ask you, after the burial of your son, Rabbi Danny Mervis, the CEO of World Mizrahi Movement, said the Perez family has inspired us and strengthened us as we have sought to strengthen them. Can you just tell me how your community and the people around you, especially the Mizrahi community, have helped you through this very, very difficult time?
Yeah, so firstly, as you know, Rabbi Danny Mervis for 6 years was the rabbi of the Mizrahi community in Melbourne, and he's a dear friend. So we worked together in that. I was the CEO of World Mizrahi, and he was the rabbi of Mizrahi in Melbourne, our Mizrahi movement around the world, and in general, Jewish community around the world, and all people who we've got a connection, even those who we don't know, but certainly the Mizrahi family, both in Israel and around the world, have been just an unbelievable source of support to us, all our branches around the world, and as I say, just communities around the world who I think our story touched a lot of people because it's two boys, two brothers. I'm a person who plays a leadership role in an Anglo community in Israel, but and our sons, and specifically Daniel, he's an Oleh Hadash who, meaning we're a family he's a boy who made Aliyah from South Africa and became an officer, and so very quickly it affected the Mizrahi community and the world Mizrahi community, and then Dani, I think, became a person for many who they could identify with if they were from the modern Orthodox Mizrahi world, but even if they were not, you had, I think, the most identifiable person for, let's call it, English-speaking Jews was Hirsch, Poland Goldberg, the Bring Hirsch Home campaign, and the fact that his arm, unfortunately, was blown off, and that from the beginning, he was sort of so I think he was a person who was the most high profile, certainly in terms of the Anglo world. But in terms of sort of the Mizrahi modern Orthodox world that sort of I'm involved in, I think Daniel was a person in our family which many felt connected to, and the fact that it was a soldier and an Ole and all of these things. So the community has been unbelievable. We still, there are so many still today, even though he's deceased, and we're waiting for for his body to come back. There's so many Tehillim groups which run all the time, every moment of the day, people saying Tehillim and so many different things. So much support. Today, an hour ago at our home, a lady from one of the yeshuvim here came to drop a gift for us. They're thinking of us. The day before, the Daniel's platoon, which is called Malchut Hermon, part of the 7th Armored Corps Chativa Sheva, the Mempei, the head of the platoon, came with a gift to give us, that they're thinking of us. And there's a tremendous amount of love and support and WhatsApps and on an ongoing basis. So it's very, very meaningful. It really buoys us, and it gives us lots of strength and comfort in the challenging times.
And we're coming up now to the second anniversary of the 7th of October's massacres. And obviously, we didn't know then what was going to unfold and has continued to unfold. Can you just tell the community how you're going to commemorate the second anniversary?
I don't yet know. Unfortunately for us, well, let me say the 7th of October is the Gregorian date. I think today it's in Sukkot, Chol HaMoed Sukkot. I'm not yet sure what we're going to do. I must be honest, I haven't thought about that day yet. Daniel's actual yahrzeit, the day that he unfortunately was killed, is Simchat Torah. So that's always a hard one.
Yes.
I think that's the day in the modern era of more Jewish people killed than any other day. So you've got this dichotomy of having to dance with the Torah and say Yizkor, for so many people. So that was a very difficult but uplifting day last time around. It'll be once again. I must be honest, I haven't yet thought that far exactly. just going to get through Rosh Hashanah. But I'll tell you what we have done is we do have, you can't go to the grave on, you shouldn't go during the Chol HaMoed and on Simchat Torah. So the week afterwards, we have his memorial prayer, where his Azkara, where we'll be, and that we have planned. It's the week after. We'll go to Mount Herzl, and we're going to have an event which we are sort of planning to do certain memorial things. So I suppose that we are planning, because that's where we're going to the grave and acknowledging the memorial, and we've got some ideas there, sort of what to do, but we will acknowledge it with the regular sort of being at the grave and some speeches, both from the army, friends, family, rabbi, and we will do an event afterwards with some initiatives and acknowledgements close by, in his memory.
The Jewish community in Australia's thoughts and prayers will be with you on that day, and we will be thinking of Daniel and the incredible heroic contribution that he made on that fateful day. Rabbi, the Australian Jewish community, as you probably know, has experienced a dramatic rise in anti-Semitism on October 7th. Many members of the community have been shocked and confused at this outpouring of support for what appears to be for Hamas, and hatred towards the Jewish community. Can you give some advice to the community on how to stay strong and optimistic during this very challenging time? And are you surprised by the outpouring of anti-Semitism?
I think, yes, I think many of us were taken by surprise, not only in what's happened to Israel on October 7th, on 7 different fronts of trying to destroy, maim, and wound the state of Israel, but just like it's happened on a collective level in Israel, it's unfortunately happening now by extension to almost every Jewish community in the world. Every Jewish community is now under attack, almost from October 7th, for having to defend ourselves against this incredible thing. So has it spiked the anti-Semitic genie to come out the bag in its new incarnation today of anti-Zionism? Absolutely. The truth is, whenever there are wars of Israel, there always is a spike in anti-Semitism. The challenge is that this has been the longest war with the longest repercussions, with tremendous devastation on trying, on trying to just get our hostages out, and fighting an enemy which has got hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of underground cities where they, town where they pop out and kill people. So it is very surprising and it's very alarming. But I want to say it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Not because I'm a prophet, because it's always okay for the Jewish people. And it's going to be okay in Israel. We just have to fortify ourselves. The community has to, everywhere, in Australia, in America, both in Australia and America and Canada. I think these are a number of countries which people do not expect to have this. Yes, in France, they've experienced it to an extent. England, for a while, it's been challenging. It didn't begin on October 7th, but it's obviously exacerbated. I don't think people, certainly in Canada, the United States, Australia, and quite frankly, anywhere expected this level. And I think for me, we have to just keep calm and carry on, meaning not be lethargic. We have to be bold, just like in Israel, we're bold and courageous, where we are fighting for our destiny. So too, the Jewish communities around the world have to come together. The response to all external problems always has to be internal unity, to have unity within the communities, to act responsibly with our security apparatus, obviously to leverage the governments and whatever states, whatever we can, but at the same time, to not only be vigilant from a security point of view, not to undermine the security threats, which, by the way, it's like this in almost every Jewish installation now around the world, but also to be bold, upright, heroic, and courageous. We have nothing to apologize for. We've got nothing to apologize for. We should not be arrogant. I said there's a very big difference between being bold and being brazen, being confident and being arrogant. We've got to walk with our heads up high, incredibly confident and bold, but not brazen and arrogant. We are on the right side of history. And even if some people might disagree with this government policy or that government policy, at the end of the day, it's not about this or that government policy. It's about Israel's right to defend herself. It's about Israel's right to do what it needs to bring its hostages home. It's about our right to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again. And we are on the side of truth, and we have to find those fair-minded people in every single country which are on the side of truth. I don't believe we'll ever be able to convince our haters and anti-Semites. Very few of them will change their mind, but most people in the world, I believe, are more ignorant than hateful and are more fair-minded than biased. And I believe that our job has to be to stand up and to defend. Our role is to double down and to show that to be a Jew means an inextricable link between Jewish peoplehood, Judaism, and the Jewish state. There is no Jewish destiny without Jewish statehood. God has blessed us with a Jewish state. It's the one and only Jewish state. If ever there was a country and a people on God's earth which have got a longer connection to a tract of land, historically, morally, religiously, it's the Jewish people's connection to the land of Israel. And we have a connection to this land which is unparalleled. And once Israel, in a defensive war in 1948, where we were prepared to live with the two-state solution and prepared to live with that, were unfairly attacked and tried to obliterate off the earth. Since then, all we've been trying to do is live in peace with our neighbors. And we have this intransigent, intractable Palestinian nationhood with the arrowhead of Hamas saying, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Death, death to the IDF. This battle is not about the territories of 1967. It's about, which they say, it's about from the river to the sea, 1948. It's our right to exist. It's not about this or that government policy. And we do not and will not apologize for our right to this land. We are a democratic country. We are a peace-loving people. We are a life-affirming people. As Douglas Murray says, he says, the reason that I support you, the Jews, is because you are life-affirming, liberty-affirming against those who celebrate and glorify death. And we are a people who are fighting on the right side of history for the role of the free world, for life, liberty, and happiness, for live and let live, for the values that we believe in. And this is our time to stand up and be counted. It's frightening times. I think for the last 50 years, we've had a little bit of a break from history. It's been a little bit, it's been almost too good. We've unfortunately now joined the other generations of Jewish history. And I think we need to dig deep. It's going to be okay. It always is okay for the Jewish people. We live in God's world and not in the world of Hamas, Sinwar, and Hitler. We live in God's world. And in God's world, it's always okay for the Jewish people, and it's going to be okay. Bezrat Hashem. We have to be bold. We have to be confident. We have to be smart. We have to stand up for each other. And we have to ensure that Judaism, the Jewish people, and the Jewish state are inextricably linked.
Rabbi, I could talk to you for hours and hours. You have so much wisdom and so much to tell the community, but I have to wind it up. So I just want to thank you so much for your time, your leadership, your family's sacrifice. And we send you all a Shana Tova, and we are all praying for better days ahead.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you for the opportunity, and to wish all of the Australian Jewish News and the whole amazing Australian Jewish community, which are a tremendous beacon of what support of Israel and Jewish peoplehood is all about. And when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And this is our time to all of us to dig very, very deep and discover who we are. And maybe I'll just end with this thing, is that I once heard from the head of, I promise I'll do my last line. I heard from from Eliezer Shkedi, who used to be the head of the Israeli Air Force and was the head of El Al. He once spoke in our community, our Mizrahi community in South Africa, when he was the head of El Al. And he said to me, he said to our community, he says, you know, Israel Airlines is the only airline which is not part of any Star Alliance, any alliance of other airlines. And he says, you know what? We are part of the greatest alliance in the world, and that is the Jewish people. And if we are together, Keish Echad B'Lev Echad, as one people with one heart, it's an alliance of love and camaraderie. And this is a time to dig very, very deep. And when we dig deep, we'll reveal tremendous reservoirs, please God, of love, of unity, of all our amazing godly values, and it's going to be okay. Please God, and please God the best for 5786.
Thank you so much.